What is happening right now with the application for Italian citizenship by descent that were filed through the court? And we want to share with you some really updates with the latest judgment, the latest decision that we received from the local regional courts, or the local immigration court. Today we want to focus on the so-called 1948 cases, what the courts are doing, what the local court are deciding about the 1940 cases. Are these type of cases still approved or not approved? What is exactly happening? This is Marco Bersani as always from the Bersani Law Office from Italy, and do not lose any more time. Let's start. A few weeks ago, we published a survey on the YouTube channel, so that's also why it's important that you subscribe to the channel and to keep following the channel, because sometimes we post and publish some surveys because we want you understand and we want to know your opinion and what you want we talk about. And this time we heard of you and we saw a lot of people in the survey told us to speak about the process of the so-called court path, so the process through the court, and so the process of Italian citizenship by descent through the court, because of different reasons, or because you have a so-called 1948 case, or because you are going to file your petition for Italian citizenship by descent through the court because of the lack of appointment with the Italian consul. So today I want to share with you some really recent 3 cases that we recently won about the 1948 cases with the local regional court, the local regional immigration court. The first one here is from the court of Naples, then the second one was made in the court of Palermo, so in Sicily, and the third one, the decision was made in Bari. So we are also talking about the south of Italy. We want to focus on the south of Italy. Why? Because we have many judgments across Italy, but you know that we can say a lot, maybe the majority of the Italian immigrants in the past, they immigrated from the south of Italy. So it's most likely that your case can be processed by a court in the south of Italy. What is happening right now with the 1948 cases from the court of Naples, the court of Napoli, Tribunale di Napoli in Italian? Just to briefly understand the context of what happened to the case, we have here a family of more than 5 applicants. They have an Italian ancestor that was born in the province of Naples, in a small village next to Naples, but technically speaking, we have a case that must be processed in the court of Naples, so the application must be filed in the court of Naples. Why? Just to better understand. As we talk about some recent past videos that we posted on the channel, the new legislation, now the law was amended in 2022, so you can file and you need to file your application through the court for Italian citizenship by descent only and only at the Italian immigration court, the local Italian immigration court, depending on where your Italian ancestor was born. So for checking what is who has the jurisdiction of your case, so the court that has the jurisdiction of your case, we need to check where your Italian ancestor was from and was born. In this case, we have a small village next to Naples, so for sure we fall under the jurisdiction of the Tribunale di Napoli, of the court of Napoli. So we provided all the documentation and we work many months on the application, because it takes time. As we already talked in many videos, it takes a lot of time to prepare the application, and then we file application as a 1948 case. In this specific case, technically our counterpart, which is the ministry, didn't come to the hearing, so there was nothing in particular to argue on the case. This is very important to explain, when you have a so-called 1948 case, you file a petition at the Italian court. Why? Technically speaking, we have a lawsuit against the ministry, so against the fact that the ministry, and so the parliament actually, they never ruled for creating a law to allow you to apply to the consulate when you have a 1940 case. So the only way to claim is through the court. So technically it's a lawsuit that you are making against the ministry to say you are not allowing me to apply through the Italian consulate, so the only way I have to apply is through an Italian court. So our formal counterpart, which is the ministry, the lawyers of the ministry didn't come. So actually we presented the case, we explained to the judge why the case must be approved, and so we filed all the documentation. And after a few weeks we had the decision, an approval. So basically, the court says the following: we have a clear discrimination because of the law, legislation, the old legislation. We are referring to the old citizenship law, the law 555/1912. The old law didn't recognize women to pass Italian citizenship to the children, so to all the next generation up to the applicant. And so this is clearly a discrimination that was also recognized firstly by the Italian Constitutional Court. And so they said clearly that it's a clear discrimination because women were considered at that time as a subordinate to the man, to the husband. And so of course it's not allowed, the fact that cannot be allowed, the fact that women just cannot pass citizenship to children. And so in this specific case, of course, they say yes, women were also Italian citizens the same way as their husbands, so as men. And this is a confirmation that the trend of the 1948 cases is still in place. This decision was made and was notified on January 2024. So it's really fresh decision. Let's start with the case number 2. This is a case from Palermo, the Tribunale of Palermo. In this case too, we had the 1948 case, always a pretty big family, like eight applicants in the same application. And so we had actually a similar case, so the same problem with the great-grandmother. The great-grandmother was actually affected by the naturalization of the husband, and so for the reason the old legislation say women were not allowed to pass Italian citizenship to children, but only the husband, the man. This is actually also pretty interesting. Why? Because in this case, of course, the judge of Palermo approved the case. So also for what pertains the court of Palermo, so in Sicily, here we have an approval, a really recent approval. This is approval from February 6th, so of 2024, of course, so we are talking a few weeks ago, very fresh. So in this case, the judge basically said the same thing. So here also the trend about the 1948 case is also established and will continue actually through the local regional immigration court. In this type of case, actually the judge made a really interesting statement, which also follow, of course, the previous legislation, by saying that when you have a woman and the woman was also affected by the naturalization of the husband. Also, if you have a naturalization abroad which affect the woman was not naturalized because the woman didn't choose to naturalize. The woman didn't choose to change her citizenship. So the woman didn't choose to change her citizenship to renew to her Italian citizenship. So this is also very important. Actually, is a legal principle that is already set also by the Italian jurisprudence, by the courts, but this is also, I mean, good to know, and good the fact that there is a judge that will highlight every time this principle in a really recent decision. So technically speaking, here we have a 1948 case, and we can say that this judge actually applied and approved the 1948 case also through a court in Sicily. The third case is related always as a 1948 case through another court, the Tribunale di Bari. So the court is another court in the south of Italy in the Puglia region. Another things to highlight, and I think is important because sometimes people ask this to us. When you have a 1948 case, so generally speaking a case that you can file through the court, if you have multiple family members that wants to apply together and if they share the same Italian bloodline, the same Italian heritage, so they are all direct descendant of the same Italian ancestor, well, in this case, they can all apply together in the same petition which is, as you may understand, on a financial point of view, you can split the cost between you all, but at the same time, it's good because you don't have to file independent application. Like, for example, if you go to the consulate, each adult applicant has to file his independent application. But here, there is one petition for everybody in the same petition. So, as you may understand, it can help to save some money, but also to save a lot of time because everybody will have the decision, the approval in the same moment altogether. What was interesting in this case is the former counterpart came and what I say actually, you can read sometime, you can read online that it's pretty uncommon for the ministry to be present at the hearing dates. Sometimes it happens. But the good thing is that, technically speaking, they have nothing in particular to hear you against the case. They don't hear you against your case specifically, except there are really, really big issues or really big errors, mistakes that were made into the application. So they just come to say we have no fault on the fact that the Italian Parliament never ruled never ruled for the 1948 cases, so technically are cases that cannot be processed by the Congress, so it's not our fault, they said. It's the Parliament that must rule for creating a new law, extension of the law, also for including the 1948 cases. So here we had a longer process because of that, because when the counterpart comes, we have the right, of course, we have the applicants, so we have the right to have to reply to them, to reply with what they said, of course. So the judge will set another hearing to giving us the time to reply against on what the ministry said. In this case, of course, this is what happens. So we will reply to the case. And after that, the judge kept all the documentation for deciding the case. And also in this case, the judge of the tribunal in Bari approved the case. So we just wanted to share with you, because on the survey, a lot of people asked us to share new case studies, new cases that were processed and won, hopefully, with the court, with the local regional court. As you see, the trend is the same. So the regional court now are approving the 1948 case. So the 1948 cases are going to continue in time until the Parliament will introduce a law that may regulate the 1948 cases, and potentially we may have cases that can be also processed at the consulate. As always, thank you for your time. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel. It's really, really important to subscribe. Also because, we publish a lot of surveys, we wrote to you some posts, and it's really important because we heard you, we write, not just we reply to you, but we heard you, and we want to know what you're looking for, what information you want from us. So it's important if you also participate, a participant of the channel. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions, we want to hear your doubts, we want to hear what are your suggestions for new videos. So we want to create a community which is open, where people has to ask something, and we want to share with you the important information. Of course, you can also follow us on the various social media channels that we have. Of course, you can also leave some comments below. We are always happy to reply to your question. Of course, we cannot do consultation here on social media, so if you need a specific consultation on your case, of course, you need to book a consultation call through our website. You can write to us and we can book for you a consultation call. Thank you so much for your time, and see you on the next videos.